National infrastructure and security. The threat posed by cyberterrorism has escalated, posing significant challenges to national and global security. This discussion aims to explore the intricate relationship between cyberterrorism and national security, offering a comprehensive analysis of national infrastructure and security. The threat posed by cyberterrorism affiliation, Mr. I Gusti Agung Waisaka Puja, to deliver his welcoming remark. Affiliation, Mr. I Gusti Agung
and colleagues, esteemed guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, warmest greetings to everyone on this delightful afternoon. It is my greatest pleasure to welcome you all to the first sessions of the ASEAN-IPR discussion series 2024. Allow me to begin by conveying my deepest appreciation to the Canadian mission to ASEAN through you, Ambassador, as this year's discussion series is made possible with the generous support of the Canada Fund for Local Initiative. For the past 5 years, the ASEAN-IPR discussion series has grown and thrived with vision, efforts, and collaboration. Building upon its success since 2020, we are once again striving to promote the culture of peace by particularly this time addressing the issue of cyberterrorism into the forefront of our discussion this afternoon. Let me touch upon the perilous encounter of cyber and terrorism. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the quest for lasting peace demands constant vigilance and adaptations, especially in the face of the continuously shifting landscape of threats. It is certainly encouraging that ASEAN and its member states have made commendable strides in addressing threats of terrorism and cybercrimes respectively, marked by the ASEAN Convention on Counterterrorism, the ASEAN Comprehensive Plan of Action on Counterterrorism, the Bali Work Plan, the ASEAN Declarations to Combat the Cybercrimes, the ASEAN Cybersecurity Cooperation Strategy, among others. However, the convergence of these two formidable threats together forms the complex challenge of cyberterrorism that necessitates our collective and proactive response. In the regions of Southeast Asia, cyberterrorism has become a growing concern in recent years as the region's dependence on digital technology has increased and terrorist groups have become more sophisticated in their use of digital technology. This modern menace leverages our growing digital infrastructures, seeking to disrupt, damage, or even manipulate our systems and data, resulting in severe consequences towards national and regional security. Nevertheless, the lack of universally agreed upon definitions of cyberterrorism persists, owing to its intricate and multifaceted nature, posing challenges for broader discussion on the matter. Rather than discouraging our efforts towards resilience and peace, the absence of such a definition should motivate us to drive today's conversations forward. We are looking forward, of course, we are so grateful to listen to the view of the speakers, in particular from Professor General Petrus Golose on this very issue. The same manner as how it has driven ASEAN-IPR to put forth the theme of the first session of the discussion series 2024 to be Unravelling Cyberterrorism, Analyzing its Impact on National Security. So we look at the importance of knowledge sharing in tackling cyberterrorism. Excellencies, ladies and dear colleagues, it has been stated that, I quote, the security of ASEAN is woven from the strength and vulnerabilities of its member states as regional security flows through national veins. The end of the quotations. ASEAN continues to thrive economically through digital technology, though we become increasingly attractive targets for cyber terrorists who seek to exploit the vulnerabilities within our critical infrastructures and cyberspace. Furthermore, as we seek to enhance regional security against these emerging threats, the diverse levels of cybersecurity readiness and technological capabilities across ASEAN member states present unique challenges despite their individual resilience. Hence, a comprehensive response to this dual threat demands that we start with knowledge sharing, dialogue, and meaningful discussions for which we are here today. When seeking to address the root causes of conflicts, the activities in the cyber domain cannot be overlooked. This includes better understanding and reacting to the changing realities in the world of conflicts, war, and conflict resolutions in cyberspaces, and to develop cybersecurity awareness in the work and the peace-building community is equally important. Digital technologies can make peace processes even more inclusive and thus bring about more sustainable peace settlement. This discussion today is particularly significant as we delve into the intersections of cybersecurity and peace building. As technological advancements continue to reshape our world, understanding how cyber challenges both can threaten and support peace efforts is crucial. This discussion aims to provide a multi-dimensional view of cybersecurity roles in peace and conflict. In an increasingly connected world, building a cyber emergency response framework for ASEAN is a timely measure to boost cyber resilience across our regions. ASEAN has reaffirmed the need to build closer cooperation and coordinations among its member states on cybersecurity policy, development, and capacity building initiative in contributing to peace and stability. However, the presence of contemporary security challenges which have regional ramifications have all surfaced as potential disruptions to the security and stability of Southeast Asia and may also be considered disturbing factors to sustainable peace. And the growth of any of those threats, in particular cybersecurity, may cause regional instability and affect ASEAN community building efforts. And highlighting such importance, ASEAN-IPR has also recently, I think 3 weeks ago, convened a focus group discussions amongst experts as a foundation for the upcoming ASEAN-IPR regional conference on cybersecurity and the role of information technology in fostering a culture of peace in ASEAN. Hopefully, we can make it sometime next year in January, where we touch upon the issue of radicalization prevention. On this particular occasion, ASEAN-IPR is greatly pleased to hold the first session of 2024 discussion series, marking another vital steps in our commitment to knowledge sharing on this critical issue of cyberterrorism in our interconnected worlds. So to conclude my remarks, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, I would like to express my gratitude to esteemed speakers and participants, both in person and online, for your enthusiastic participation in the ASEAN-IPR discussion series 2024, where we continue to tackle paramount trends related to peace processes. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants for your dedication and commitment to this critical issue. Your expertise and insights are invaluable as we work together to explore how cybersecurity can contribute to peace building in our region. Thank you for your presence and participation. I look forward to the fruitful discussions and innovative ideas that will emerge from this discussion. We are especially delighted to gather and welcome stakeholders whose expertise is essential to this important dialogue. Together, let us forge a path towards enduring peace throughout our regions and beyond. And I wish you productive discussion. And thank you.
Thank you, Paidi, for the welcoming remarks. Next, as I mentioned, today's event will not be possible without the support of the Government of Canada. Please welcome the Ambassador of Canada to ASEAN, Her Excellency Vicky Singmin, to deliver her opening remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone, Excellencies. Hope everyone can hear me online. Ambassador Puja, it's always a pleasure to be here with you and with the ASEAN-IPR team. Professor General Reinhard Golose, lovely to meet you a few minutes ago, and delighted that you'll be here. Understand we have esteemed guests online as well, Professor Dr. Su Hao and Captain Shahana Piso. And I think there's a few familiar faces in the audiences as well. Ambassador Arteli Tobing, always good to see you. Our DCM colleague from Timor-Leste, and His Excellency Adam Gios as well. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to be here, and let me congratulate ASEAN-IPR on another year of holding these discussion series. I've had the privilege of joining them before, and it really is a great opportunity to have thoughtful discussion, and I always walk away with something from them. And so I'm really happy this year that Canada is able to support this discussion series through the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, or how we refer to it as CFLI. And CFLI is a fund that we run out of our mission of Canada to ASEAN here in Jakarta. The intention is to support impactful projects designed by the people of ASEAN, for the benefit of ASEAN communities. And as I said before, I'm super excited that Canada is able to work with our friends at the ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation. We've very much benefited from a long-standing relationship there. Throughout the world, whether in Canada or in ASEAN communities, digital and communication technologies are integral to everyday life. Everyone probably has a phone in their hand right now. Whether for learning, for work, or leisure, our lives are increasingly reliant on digital tools and on IT systems. Digitalization has improved our connections to each other, and it has the potential to support significant economic growth. But at the same time, there are, of course, challenges, and Ambassador Puji spoke to these earlier as well. So as technologies become more deeply embedded in our day-to-day lives, in our global infrastructure and in our security frameworks, the potential for their exploitation in new and disturbing ways continues to rise. So I'll speak briefly to three risks. The first one, the internet can be used by bad actors to recruit and to radicalize individuals to violence. Digital technologies can be exploited to disseminate propaganda and to raise funds to finance terrorist activities. Violent extremist and terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and Daesh have declared their intent to develop cyber strategies and capabilities. New joint reporting from the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism and the United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute points to the potential for these groups to simply contract cyber attacks to be carried out by existing and capable cyber criminals online. Secondly, as our systems are more interconnected, the risk of malicious actors targeting information systems, critical infrastructure, and communications networks is also heightened. And finally, the increasing online availability of personal, business, and financial data also makes individuals a prime target or collateral damage for these threat actors. Today's discussions will delve into some of these intricate relationships and risks, and how emerging threats from violent extremist and terrorist use of the internet are identified and assessed. It's also important to discuss how our efforts to tackle cyber criminality and to prevent and counter violent extremism and terrorism can help build the resilience of our society. Canada believes that the protection and the promotion of human rights and fundamental freedoms are critical steps in this regard. Unfortunately, overly broad definitions of cybercrime, violent extremism or terrorism, or even cyberterrorism can be misused by states to silence dissent and to suppress otherwise legitimate activity. That's why instead of using the term cyberterrorism, Canada tends to use the term violent extremism and terrorist use of the internet, which is consistent with the terminology used by the United Nations. The potential misuse of the term was a point we sought to emphasize throughout the recently concluded United Nations Cybercrime Treaty negotiations, and we hope that it will continue to resonate across forums and discussions, including here today. Today's discussion will also build on key relevant initiatives. Ambassador Guja, you spoke to some of these as well. The 2005 ASEAN Convention on Counterterrorism, which recognizes the need to strengthen capability and readiness to address terrorism that employs cyber means. The more than 15 UN Security Council resolutions, which address the misuse of information and communication technologies for terrorist purposes. And global commitments, such as the Christchurch Call to Action. Over the years, Canada has consistently engaged with ASEAN to support its efforts to address transnational crime and counterterrorism, including cybercrime, through mechanisms like the ASEAN Regional Forum and the ASEAN-Canada Senior Officials Meeting on Transnational Crime. Since 2018, Canada has invested almost 30 million Canadian dollars in technical assistance and in equipment to prevent and respond to international terrorism. This practical programming has helped to build the capacity of ASEAN's policymakers, legislators, law enforcement, and other security actors to strengthen legislative frameworks, increase international cooperation, and counter violent extremism. Canada is also working with ASEAN to counter cybercrime and improve regional cybersecurity. Currently, Canada supports cyber capacity building in ASEAN with an investment of $11.6 million for law enforcement training and cross-border coordination, recognizing that the nature of cyber threats demands new levels of cooperation across national boundaries. We're also investing in public awareness campaigns to ensure stakeholders are better prepared to respond to the evolving landscape of cyber threats. Importantly, this includes protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms. And it's vital that protection and prevention in countering violent extremism, terrorism, and cybercrime is carried out in compliance with international human rights law. And in doing so, we're helping to build a more resilient ASEAN community that can thrive in a secure digital environment. As a strategic partner for ASEAN, Canada stands ready to work hand in hand with ASEAN to defend against such threats, to ensure the integrity of digital infrastructure, and to protect and promote human rights and fundamental freedoms. So I very much look forward to hearing more about how we can address these issues today, how we can enhance our strategies to safeguard our digital future together and responsibly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Singman, for the opening remarks. And Ambassador Singman could stay in front of the stage because we would like to have a photo session. I would also like to invite the moderator and speakers and our secretariat, our executive director to the stage for a photo session.
Taking picture in 3, 1, 2, 3. One more time, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're good. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Excellency. You may return to your seat. As Ambassador Singman has other engagements to attend, we would like to thank Ambassador Singman for her presence today. We hope to see Ambassador Singman again in our next event. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your attention as I relay some of the house rules to ensure everybody's comfort and in following the discussion. Today's discussion will be 2.5 hours long. The event is simultaneously live streamed on our ASEAN-IPR YouTube channel. For participants joining us online, Please ensure that you have a steady internet connection and the updated version of the Zoom software. During the presentation from the speakers, attendees in Zoom who wish to pose a question to the speakers may use the Q&A box, while viewers on YouTube can write their question in the live chat box. Please follow the format of questions as explained by the organizers in the chat box. Please refrain from using the chat or message box function on both platforms for personal or extensive discussion. For participants attending offline, if you'd like to ask a question, please raise your hand and the organizer will hand over the microphone to you. There will be a dedicated Q&A session after our speaker has finished their presentation. We all ask for participants to be polite and considerate during the session. Thank you for respecting our house rules. We'll now proceed into the discussion session. And to be our guide for this afternoon's discussion, I would like to introduce our moderator, Ms. Helena Su Hao. Helena Su Hao is an analyst and researcher with a focus on national resilience, geopolitics, international relations, and conflict resolutions. Currently, Helena serves as a professional staff assistant in the Geostrategy and Resilience Division at the Lembaga Ketahanan Nasional Republik Indonesia, also known as the Indonesian National Resilience Agency. Helena has a bachelor degree in international relations from Universitas Pertamina and a master's of research in national resilience study from Universitas Indonesia. May I invite our moderator to the stage? And with this, I hand over the discussion to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Ms. Isabel for your very kind introduction. So many thanks also to ASEAN-IPR for having me here. It is an honor for me to be a moderator today. Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, very good afternoon to you all. I'm pleased to welcome you to the first session in 2024 from ASEAN-IPR, entitled Unravelling Cyberterrorism, Analyzing its Impact to the National Security. We are honored to be joined by our distinguished speaker, Professor Petrus Golose, who came here in person with us, and Professor Su Hao and Captain Sarhana Piso that join us through YouTube. The session conducted in a hybrid format, accommodating both in person and attendance via virtual participation through YouTube or through YouTube streaming or Zoom. So as the moderator, my role today is to facilitate you to have a comfort discussion. So I will soon hand over the floor to our distinguished speakers. So, however, before we begin, I would like to briefly outline the structure of today's discussion. A speaker will be allocated 15 minutes for their presentation. Then following the presentation from our three speakers, we will proceed to the Q&A session. So let's proceed. And I'm honored to introduce our first speakers, Commissioner General Professor Dr. Petrus Golose. He is currently serving as an advisor at Paguyuban Anti-Terror Indonesia, or called PATI, of the National Counterterrorism Agency. His career began at the Indonesian National Police Academy. It is leading to various key positions, including head of mobile investigation unit and director of operation at the National Counterterrorism Agency. Professor Golose holds a doctoral degree from University of Indonesia, awarded in 2008. And Professor Golose has had a distinguished career in both policing and academic education. Perhaps many of you remember the pivotal moment in 2005 when Professor Golose led a successful operation against the notorious terrorist Dr. Azari. His strategic acumen during this operation brought him into the national and international spotlight. His career trajectory continued upward with roles such as Director of Operation at the National Counterterrorism Agency in 2010, and later as Deputy for International Cooperation. In 2016, he took on the role of Chief of Bali for where he was later honored with an honorary doctorate from Udayana University for his transformative work in the region. Aside from his policy duties, Professor Golose has also dedicated himself to academic field. Just this month, he will be formally appointed as a permanent professor in policy science at STIK. Congratulations in advance, Professor Golose. With a career that spans decades and portfolio filled with significant achievement, Professor Golose continues to inspire many across various sectors. We are indeed fortunate to have him with us today. So, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Professor Golose. Professor Golose, please come to the stage. Okay, the floor is yours.
All right. Actually, she asked me to come to the stage. Thank you, Moderator. Very good afternoon to everybody. Actually, I don't want to be a speaker because now I'm not taking care about terrorism after I retire. Mostly I do for tourism. But because my old friend Ambassador Puja asked me, that's why I came to this hotel to become a speaker. And of course, I would like to thank you to Ambassador Puja. So call my memory to all I've been doing since actually 2000 when we start fighting against terror in this country. And thank you also to all the participants who joined with us this afternoon, and to all the guests from other countries. Actually, I will highlight some major terror attacks that happened in Indonesia. This one explained bombing series in Christmas Eve, year of 2000, took place in several cities, which were part of large-scale terrorist attack by Jamaah Islamiyah, which affiliated with Al-Qaeda. The attack involved a series of coordinated bombings of churches in 8 cities: Medan, Batam, Pekanbaru, Jakarta, Bandung, Mojokerto, Mataram, which killed 18 people and injured 118 people. 2 suspects were arrested following the bombings. Founded documents implicating Hambali in the bombing. Hambali, now still in Guantanamo, was arrested in Thailand and extradited to Guantanamo. The first Bali bombing occurred on 12 October 2002 in the tourist district of Kuta on Bali Island. The attack killed 202 people, 300 people wounded, 59 buildings severely damaged, 19 cars destroyed, and 32 motorcycles destroyed as well. The perpetrators are members of Al-Jamaah Al-Islamiyah, or we call it JI, affiliated with Al-Qaeda. The attack involved the donation of 3 bombs, a backpack mounted device carried by a suicide bomber, a large car bomb, both of which were detonated in or near popular nightclubs in Kuta. And the third, much smaller devices detonated outside the United States consulate in Denpasar, causing only minor damage. JW Marriott Hotel bombing occurred on 5th August 2003 in Mega Kuningan, South Jakarta. A suicide bomber detonated a car bomb outside the lobby of the JW Marriott Hotel, killing 12 people and 150 people were injured. Those killed were mostly Indonesian, with the exception of one Dutchman. The hotel was viewed as a Western symbol and had been used by the United States Embassy for various events. The perpetrators are members of Jamaah Islamiyah, affiliated with Al Qaeda. Attack type are suicide bombing, car bomb, and other bombing. A car boat bomb was packed into a small van, exploded outside the Australian Embassy at Kuningan District, South Jakarta, killing 9 people, including the suicides. The explosion gutted the Greek embassy on the 12th floor of adjacent building, where 3 diplomats were slightly wounded. Damage to the nearby Chinese embassy was also reported. Numerous office buildings surrounding the embassy were also damaged by the blast, which shattered windows in buildings 500 meters away, injuring many workers inside, mostly by broken glass. The perpetrators are members of Jamaah Islamiyah. Attack type is car bomb. Second Bali bombing were a series of terrorist suicide bombs and a series of car bombs and attacks that occurred on 1st October 2005 in Bali. Bombs exploded at 2 sites in Jimbaran Beach Resort and Utaraja and Menega Cafe. 23 people died and more than 102 others injured. The 3 bombers also died in the attacks. The perpetrators are members of Al-Jamaah Islamiyah, affiliated with Al Qaeda. Type of bomb is suicide bomb with a backpack. Here is a terrorist attack which took place in Jakarta, Indonesia, on 17 July 2009 at the JW Marriott and Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Setiabudi, South Jakarta, were hit by separate bombing 5 minutes apart. 9 people were killed, of whom 3 were Indonesian, 3 were Australian, 2 were Netherlands, and 1 was from New Zealand. More than 50 people were injured and in the blast. Both blasts were caused by suicide bombers who checked into the hotel as paying guests several days earlier. The twin suicide bombings came 4 years after the previous serious terrorist attack in Indonesia. The type of bomb is a suicide bombing. A terrorist attack which took place in Jakarta on 14 January 2016 at the Sarina Shopping Mall in central Jakarta, Indonesia, at the intersection of Kiai Haji Wahid Hasim and Jalan Tamrin. 1 blast went off in Starbucks outlet outside the mall. Armed standoff took place on the 4th level of the Menara Cakrawala on Tamrin Street. At least 8 people died and 19 people injured. The perpetrators are members of the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, ISIL. Type of bomb is suicide bombing and armed attack. In 2018, Surabaya bombing were terrorist attack which took place in the three different churches in Surabaya. Archchurches of Santa Maria Tak Bercela, GKI Diponegoro, Pentacosta, GPPS Arjuno. The terrorists used car and motorcycle bombs. At least 18 people died and 41 people wounded. The perpetrators are members of the Jamaah Ansori Dawah, JAD. Type of bomb is a suicide bombing. The terrorist attack on 12 March 2019 in Sibolga was allegedly related to the visit of Indonesian President to inaugurate the Sibolga port. The alleged perpetrators is a family. The suicide bombing carried out by the wife and son of Abu Hamza. Evidence in the form of 10 pipe bombs and 300 kilograms of explosive. Abu Hamza is suspected of being affiliated with outlaw, homegrown, pro-Islamic State terror group, Jamaah Ansori Dawah. Another attack that addressed government official was stabbing of coordinating political, legal, and security affair Minister Wiranto in 2019. The 22 people arrested by the National Police Anti-Terror include the suspected perpetrators of the stabbing, identified only Abu Rara and his wife. The other 20 people are affiliated with the Islamic State linked homegrown militant group Jamaah Ansori Dawah and have sworn loyalty to the group chief Abu Bakar al-Baghdadi. Here, I wanna explain about Indonesia have a long story with terrorist attack since 1981, even before, even after our independence. The intensity rose up since the year of 2000. Various bombing attacks that targeted foreign embassy, church, Western interests, and also targeting police officer, including me. Since 2023 until now, there is no attack in Indonesia. It's a positive sign for Indonesian security. Based on experience and academic research, we define terrorism is any unlawful act that spread terrorists widely to the public by threat or violence, whether organized or not, and causes physical and or psychological suffering for a long time, so that it is categorized as an extraordinary crime and crime against humanity. There are some recent terrorist misuse the internet. It's borderless, larger audience, interactivity between users, rapid information exchange, available for everyone at any time, and anonymity feature. Based on my theory, actually, so grounded theory, there are 9 activities of terrorism that are connected to each other and are applied simultaneously. It is propaganda, recruitment, training, logistics, provision, paramilitary formation, planning, execution of attack, hiding, and financing. The terrorist organization activities saw some changes in these latter years. The use of internet for terrorist purposes has become the main pattern of this change. They use internet for propaganda, training, also for financing. The other change is their recruitment target. In the past, they recruited the lower educated person and almost all of them are men. Currently, they recruit the higher educated person and also involve women and children in their operation. In the past, terrorist group operation relatively ordered by their amir or in the structure chain of command. But now, the terror attacks come from cells or smaller group initiative. Also, the target has changed from Western interests to local target. In propaganda, terrorists use both offline and online media. Some of online media are mass demonstration, religious teachings, education, family and friendship, and printed media like magazine. Other than offline, terrorists also exploit the social media and website to spread their threat and ideology. Common terrorist propaganda materials in Indonesia, including caliphate system, refusing national system and ideology, promoting intolerant action, prohibition to greet other religion at their holiday. The terrorist propaganda, in one hand, targeting in the enemy in the form of incitement and threat. At the same time, they try to gain public support and their own group members. In this video, you can see Nurdin M. Top threatening Western countries, especially America, England, Australia, and Italy, also Indonesian National Police and Christian community. Next. Terrorist propaganda Terrorist propaganda widespread on various websites, social media, chat groups, inform articles, videos, and photos. Those materials contain various purposes such as recruitment, glorifying terrorism, and fundraising. Terrorists also involving children in their propaganda. It shows that terrorist groups disseminate their ideology to their member since the early childhood. This is very dangerous. There are 5 stages of process in online recruitment: dissemination of narratives, content to media platform, identification, mapping of people who have the same understanding, attitude, private conversation, online training, involvement in terrorist activity. This is also conversation between ISIS recruiter and the female sympathizer. The recruiter gave a false image about daily living in Syria, also a good chance for marriage. Nowadays, terrorists actively deploy internet as a training media. These materials, including weapons, training, bomb assembly, tactics, and also internet using for communication and hacking technique. Some examples of terrorist training video: to create bomb, detonator using handphone and poison handbook that spreads in YouTube and website. The Badri Hartono cell group learned to assemble nitroglycerin. So nitroglycerin is the kind of liquid bomb from ebook that available on the internet. They plan to attack mobile brigade office and Buddhist community in Jakarta. related Rohingya conflict in Myanmar. Bahru Naim from Syria initiated the Cyber Daulah group that used a communication media to his supporter in Indonesia. Naim provides various training materials and attack planning. Rizky Gunawan, a terrorist that joined paramiliter held by MIT in Poso. Rizky Gunawan approached Mawan Kurniawan in nahmuslim.com, a non-radical forum. Mawan Kurniawan is an IT expert that developed Stealer and Checker program. Together, they hacked a foreign exchange website. The money from hacking used to fund the Punton church bombing and paramilitary training in Poso.
Professor Golose,
Asar.net case occurred in the year of 2005. Jamaah Islamiyah members such as Nurdin M. Top, Agung Sepiadi, Abdul Aziz using MRIRC. Terrorists use the money transfer service to send money from ISIS in Syria to Indonesia, and the money used both illicit firearms and bomb material to conduct terror attack in Tamrin Street. The investigation showed the terrorist family actively support the terrorist financing. In this case, found that Bahru Naim wife, who is living in Syria, involving in terrorist finance, the money to support terrorist activity. Terrorist group already used the cryptocurrency. Elza Fadlian and Maxun Hariri arrested by Indonesian National Police. They transferred funds to Walid Fekar in Syria. Both Elza and Maxum are treasury of charity organization in Indonesia, namely World Human Care and Indonesia Berbagi. Muhammad Jibril, aka Prince of Jihad, sends email to the internet protocol based namely email85@yahoo.com, who located in Saudi Arabia, email account on August 28, 2008. This is the video call also between Dani V. Permana, suicide bomber, and Saifuddin Zuhri. So in 2009, they were using already video call to do the suicide bombing. 2000. Terrorist group in Indonesia imitating the ISIS beheading video in YouTube. The MIT, a terrorist group in Poso, Sulawesi, kill a civilian by beheading. They disseminate the video and threatening statement to the internet. Terrorist group also exploit the defacement hacking technique to spread their threat. Here is a Buddhist community website that hacked by terrorists. Indonesia, so talking related with our national security, Indonesia counterterrorism strategy, including prevention, protection, deradicalization, law enforcement, capacity building, national preparedness, and international cooperation as regulated in Indonesia counterterrorism law. Also, Indonesia have related to information and electronic transaction and counterterrorism financial law. Terrorists exploit the internet for their purposes, including propaganda, recruitment, training, logistic provision, paramilitary formation, planning, execution of attack, hiding, financing. To counter internet misuse by terrorists, need to develop a comprehensive law that cover all 9 terrorist activity: law enforcement, intelligence, interagency coordination, stakeholders cooperation. Counter-narrative and counter-radicalization is very important countering terrorist activity on the internet. If we're doing that, we can fight against together for the terrorists using internet in the cyberspace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Golose, for your enlightening speech and very comprehensive presentation. So we now shift our focus from the national security to the international relation and diplomacy. Our next speaker bring a wealth of knowledge from the heart of ASEAN. So it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Su Hao, from the Department of Diplomacy and founding director of the Center for Strategic and Peace Studies at China Foreign Affairs University. Professor Su holds a Bachelor in History and Master in International Relations from Beijing Normal University and a PhD in International Relations from China Foreign Affairs University. He enriched his academic journey with advanced studies in London and was a Fulbright scholar at Columbia University and the University of California, Berkeley. Professor Su Hao has held a significant position, including the acting chairman of the Department of Diplomacy and the director of multiple research centers at China Foreign Affairs University. Currently, he is the president of the Beijing Geopolitical Strategy and Development Association and served on several international boards specializing in China foreign policy, strategic studies, and East Asia integration. Let's warmly welcome Professor Su Hao to share his expert insight into the dynamic realm of Asia-Pacific international relations. Professor Su Hao, the screen passes to you.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to take part in this outstanding conference on the counter cyber terror. Actually, I'm in Beijing because it's far away from Jakarta, but by this convenience of the internet, so make us combine together easily to on the screens to see together to discuss these important issues of anti-cyber terror. Actually, because of this convenience of the internet, make us close together, but also in the meantime, this also creates a problem like the cyber terrorism. So the internet creates the kind of technology to make the instrument used by the terrorists, to attack our human civilizations and political system and the nation state, even the public society. So I think that's this is 2%. One is convenient for our human usage to make us, much better life, and on the other hand, will make some kind of the vicious person like the terrorists to use this kind of convenient technology to make some kind of criminal behavior. So I would like to make my presentation with the topic in this way: Chinese preparation for countering cyber terrorism and China's ASEAN cooperation. Actually, I got the sheet of questionnaires from the host, ASEAN Institute of Reconciliation and Peace. So on this sheet of paper, there are 4 broad categories with 12 questions. So many questions actually. So I will try my best to give answer to you on these questionnaires. So first of all, I would like to say, based upon my research, and also, of course, some Chinese academic and official definition about the cyber terrorism. So how to define the cyber terrorism? Actually, there's the differences to define this kind of important, issues. Generally speaking, in Chinese official, we have the legal definition about the terrorism. So some years ago, Chinese government issues the anti-terror law. This is a national law to make all the people in China to follow it on the preparation of anti-terror. So within this law, there's a definition about the terrorism. That means the terrorism refers to the idea and the behaviors that use violence, destruction, intimidation, and other means to create social panic, endanger public security, infringing upon personal property, or coerce state agencies and international organizations to achieve their political, ideological, and other purpose. So that means terrorism uses violence against the society, against the nation, against the government, against the public, society, and for their vicious political purpose. So this is the key implication of the definition. So going along our human societal progress, in particular, their science technology development, so the society and the economies and even the governance of the nations making more modernization. So the terrorism also change its format from traditional pattern into the new format. That means the cyber terrorist attack. So the cyber terrorists came into being by this kind of new technology. So I would say that in this context of the development of society and technology, so the cybersecurity also makes it big challenges to our human society and the nation state. But how to define this kind of the cyber terrorism is not very easy because there are so many uncertainties in this definition of the cyber terrorism. So in this concept given by the host to me for this conference, so I think that the definition on this concept paper is quite good. So from this concept paper hosted by this ASEAN-IPR, that is, cyberterrorism is kind of the cyber-dependent crime perpetrated for political objective to provoke fear, intimidate, and or coerce to target government or populations and cause or threatening to cause harm. So I think it's a good definition. But from the Chinese experiences, because we also suffer quite a lot of their terrorist attack, and even including their cyber terrorist attack. So make Chinese aware that cyber terrorism is something new for Chinese national security challenges. As you know, in Chinese, not only our overall national security concern, but also our cooperation, international cooperation with the national society. So we are facing, not China, but our neighbors facing the three evil forces. That is terrorism, extremism, and separatism. So among these three evil forces, the cyber or internet technology had been used by this terrorism, so making big trouble to us. So in this context of cyber terrorists came into being, so I'm a scholar, so I try to make my best to define this kind of cyber terrorism. So I would argue that cyber terrorism is a kind of terrorist activities in which non-governmental organizations or individuals use their internet technology premeditately and target the internet to destroy the public stability, the economic security of the targeting country, to disrupt society, social order, and create a sensational impact or serious panic. So this kind of cyber terrorist is a product of the expansion of information technology fields. So it's in my personal definition of the cyberterrorism. So this kind of cyberterrorism with some kind of their special characteristics, or even with some kind of the motivations promoted by the cyber terrorists. In Chinese academic research about the cyber terrorism, we define this kind of cyber terrorism into two schools or two categories. One is instrumental cyber terrorism. It is kind of the indirect cyber terrorism. That means the terrorists use their technology of internet or information to serve for their vicious purpose. And the second category of the definition is their targeted cyber terrorism, which is belong to the direct cyber terrorism. So the terrorists use their technology or even their information technology or internet technology to attack their nation state, the government, the infrastructure, or even internet database to bring their terrorist impact on the society or within the country. So cyber terrorism with some features like use their internet technology to attack their digital system, or the infrastructure by means of internet to bring the big, destroys on the infrastructure or impact on the public opinion, even their pandemic or even their panic, in a society. So in this regard, I would say that cyberterrorism is used by the terrorists on the internet technology to distribute their extremist or terrorist idea or information to multiply their terrorists to take the action against the society, or even organized well by the internet for their terrorist action to attack the society or the countries. And terrorists use their internet technology to share their financial capacity building, or even to distribute their capital to support the action of terrorism. So, and the terrorists also use their internet platform to build a huge, even the global or regional terrorist network to combine all the efforts of terrorists, to take their, broader and even the serious action against the international society. So this kind of cyber terrorism is even worse, even more serious to attack the society by this way. So from Chinese research and policy making, so we also, based upon the different stage of cyber terror, to improve our definition or even our behavior preparing anti-cyber terror. First, we at the beginning, we concern very much about the information sharing by the terrorists on the internet. And then later on, the hacker attacked on the internet by the terrorism. This is a concern by ourselves in the Chinese government and our policy researchers. And then later on the third stage, so terrorists use the internet to mobilize the terrorists against the society in the wide scope. So it's very much more serious by the information technology used by the terrorism. And now, maybe it's the fourth stage for us to be concerned or even to warm up, aware that terrorists could be used AI, I mean their generative artificial intelligence, if they use the AI technology, maybe use their terrorist attack even worse, even deep in our society. So we should watch out this kind of the new technology, I mean the AI technology, to be used by the cyber terrorists. So the reason why just a few years ago in the United Nations, there's the conference, in the United Nations, hosted by the senior officers of anti-terrorism, focus on the counterterrorism in the age of transformative technology. So transformative technology, that means the new technology, like the AI, like the new high tech, to be used by the terrorists. So I think that's cyber technology is even more and more sophisticated to be challenged to our human society, our national society, and even our government and the public, peoples. So this is my first point in my presentation. The second, so how to prepare to enter the cyber terrorism. This is my second point in my presentation. So regarding the kind of the new kind of the cyber technology, we should say that the cyber terrorists always use the mass media to distribute their information of terrorism, their extremist idea, or even on the internet to train the terrorists. So make the terrorists use their mass media as a kind of their strategic instrument, to launch the attack, by their in the cyberspace. And also the terrorists use the internet to, recruit their terrorists, even to mobilize the terrorists, online to unite the terrorists, in a short way, efficient way to launch the terrorist attack. So this in Chinese experiences some years ago in Xinjiang province. So the terrorists use the technology of internet in a short way, in short time, to launch the very much serious terrorist attack in Xinjiang. So we suffer quite a lot about this. And now, maybe the terrorists could use the AI technology to launch their war against their international society, or even some kind of their regional society, or even nation state. Now, some terrorists also use the word to appeal for so-called safe Facebook invasion, or Twitter or X terrorist action, or even YouTube terror. So terrorists already aware this kind of new internet technology or AI technology, could be used by the cyber terrorists. About the international terrorists use the internet platform as the instrument to, make some kind of their, we could say that used by some kind of the countries to serve for their national strategic interests, or in their big powers competition. So, for example, China was facing the challenges from the United States at the moment across the Asia Pacific, but the United States do not agree or do not share the Chinese definition about their terrorism in Xinjiang province. So they use the Xinjiang issue to be an instrument against Chinese, national resilience, build up, or even economic development. So even this serious problem between China and the United States to have the differences of the definition of the terrorism and cyber terrorism. So I would say that at the moment, we should need the common sense between China and ASEAN, between China and the United States, to define the terrorism or the cyber terrorism, so that we can avoid the terrorism to be used as a proxy or instrument by the big powers as an instrument against others. And regarding the cyber terrorism, for China, we face a big serious challenges because we are on the way to be modernized in Chinese style. So our Chinese modernization goes very much smooth and rapid. So in a way of our Chinese modernization, so our infrastructure is getting more importance in our Chinese economy or nation building. But this kind of infrastructure of China also have some kind of the successibility, facing the terrorist attack. For example, in China, we have a wide range of the netizens. In Chinese, more than 100 million netizens in China. So many Chinese citizens depending on the internet. So this kind of internet could be easier attacked by the terrorists. So that make very much chaotic or even panic, in our society. For example, some years ago, when the Chinese heart of the political areas in Beijing, that is Tiananmen, as you know, Tiananmen is the center of Beijing, but was attacked by the terrorists. And terrorists used the video, to spread this kind of their image of terrorist attack. So brings the big panic in our Chinese society. So this is a good case. That means by the terrorists use on the media society to spread out this kind of the panic. And in China, we have the very much advanced electronic commerce platform market. We have very much strong electronic payment platform. So this kind of electronic system might be easier to be attacked by the cyber terrorism. So we should be careful about our, electronic economy in our society. In particular, the financial system dependent on the internet, the information technology, even the digital system. So this kind of the stock exchange or future exchange market is also facing the big challenges against the terrorist attack. Even I would say that Chinese infrastructure or critical infrastructure in our society is very much strong. For example, we have very strong the electric power supply network. We have very strong aviation network technology and information sharing. We have very much strong railway network, in particular, the high-speed train network. Of course, Indonesia, just months ago, I was in Jakarta to take the high-speed train from Jakarta to Bandung. So this kind of the high-speed train is easier to be attacked by the cyber terrorists. Of course, China will also depend on very much about the energy supply network. So all these critical infrastructure was facing the big challenges of cyber terrorist attack. And China, where economy transformed into the new style of digital economy. So this kind of digital economy is the key purpose or key spool of Chinese modernization or Chinese production for our style of modernization. So the data platform is easy to be attacked by the internet terrorists. So for China, we also prepare this kind of technology against this kind of possible cyber terrorist attack. So in this context of the dangerous or the threatening the cyber terrorist attack, so we should be aware that if the things happen in this way, there's a huge impact on Chinese national security and regional security. So the third point in my presentation, I would say that the huge impact on the Chinese national security and the regional security in East Asia composed by the cyber terrorism. I would say that if the cyber terrorist taking place in Chinese society, for example, our commercial system had to be collapsed. Our financial supervision and regulation system will be damaged. And even our database had been collapsed because, China, we are dependent very much about we call Eastern digital to be countered by the Western database to be accounted. So this is very important for us. It's very important for us to solidate our infrastructure capacity build up against the terror. Otherwise, that will bring very much serious dangers to our nation building. Actually, myself, I have some kind of previous experiences of terrorist attack. So tell you the truth, when I was teenage, 40 years, more than 40 years ago, in my home province, in Yunnan province, I suffered in my hometown in Gezhou province of Yunnan, Gezhou city of Yunnan province. I was witness to see the terrorist attack in my home city. That is the Islamic extremist terrorist behavior in that place. And my second experiences in 2001, that was in New York. Myself, I was witness to see the 911 happened in New York City. I was in Manhattan to see the two hijackings, airplanes attacks the World Trade Center. So I'm aware that terrorist attack brings so much serious impact on the society, on the nation. And in China, like some years ago in Xinjiang province, 2009, this terrorist attacks in Xinjiang, in Urumqi, also makes a very much serious attack on the city, society, economy, and stability. So I would say that cyber terrorist attack even worse than the physical terrorist attack, because as I mentioned, regarding the internet technology, regarding the digital economy, regarding the critical infrastructure, if the terrorist attack this kind of the way will make even worse the impact on in a country or in an international society, because regarding the internet, there's no border, there's no boundary, right? It's easier to spill over from the one place to beyond the nation, or even get into the region or spread to the whole of the world. So the cyber terrorist attack taking place in one country, the easier to spread out to the whole of the world, because our world already become globalized together. So if the terrorist attack taking place, cyber terrorist attack take place in one place, that will make the whole of fields of production will die, and the society will die, and even the international community will suffer serious by this way. So I would say that terrorist attack is so much important impact on the nation build up, or even the international community integration. So I would argue that they're based upon their current geopolitical.
Sorry, we have 2 minutes remaining.
Okay, all right, okay. So I think that the globalization is make the terrorist attacks even more worse, and their production of distribution in the global society will easiest the terrorist attack in more global impact. And even if there are some kind of the geopolitical standoff between the big powers, and makes the terrorists could be used as a proxy or as an instrument used by the big powers. So we should be careful about the kind of the cyber terrorists, you know. So last but not least, in my points, I mean the fourth point, China will already do something to prepare the counter cyber terrorism. In China, already issues several kinds of the law to build the legal system, like anti-terrorist law, like their data security law, and we have their some kind of the regulation by Chinese government, like their regulatory system and mechanism for anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism finance, and anti-tax evasion. And by this way, we base upon the legal behavior against the cyber terror. And also we combine all our national capacity, like the military force, military police, even the civilians, the militant, or even their police assistants, to unite the whole of society, to watch out the possible cyber terrorist attack. And for China, we enhance our cooperation with our neighbor in the international community. We have several levels. At the global level, in the United Nations, China takes an important role to add the anti-cyber terror in the global, the global anti-terrorism strategy. So the Chinese contribution in the United Nations. And also in the East Asia, China cooperates with our neighbors, including China, Japan, South Korea, and ASEAN countries in the ASEAN Plus 3. And also the China will enhance our cooperation with our neighbors in the Mekong River area and to the terror by the multilateral way. Of course, we also enhance our bilateral cooperation, like Indonesia. Well,
Professor Su Hao, our time is up.
Okay. Yesterday, we just have the 2+2 official meeting with Chinese and the Indonesian government to enhance our cooperation for defense capacity building. So by all this way, we'll unite together against the cyber terrorism. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Su Hao, for your comprehensive insight and what you have been said about how China government was respond to cyber terrorism. So we now turn our attention to a multifaceted approach to security that combines psychological, cultural, and social perspective. Our next speaker embodies this approach with her unique expertise and background. I'm honored to introduce Captain Sarhana S. Piso, a distinguished military professor from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP. Captain Piso served as a professor of clinical psychology and social anthropology, where she applies her expertise to enhance military training and operation. Her work extends beyond academia. She is an active mental health and behavior analyst, cultural consultant, and a recognized subject matter expert in political, religious, and left-wing violent extremism. As a proud Filipino Muslim, Captain Piso brings invaluable cultural insight into her roles, fostering a deeper understanding within AFP and among communities she serves. Her research and advocacy focus on integrating psychological principles with cultural awareness to address complex security challenges in Philippines. It is important to note that while Captain Piso shared her expertise, the views she expresses are her own and do not necessarily reflect the entire AFP. Please join me in warming welcome Captain Sarhana S. Piso to share her innovative approach and to security and mental health. Captain Piso, the screen is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hold on, let me share my screen first. What's my give me a minute.
Distinguished participant, Captain Sarhana need more time to prepare her presentation, so bear with us for a short while.
Okay. Hello, ma'am. Can you see my screen now? Is my screen shown?
Sure.
Okay, so I could start now. So greetings, esteemed ambassadors, distinguished delegates. Is it being shown now? Okay, so honored ASEAN Discussion Series guest, with great pleasure, I welcome you to my presentation on digital warfare, investigating the dynamics of violent extremist recruitment strategies in cyberspace and its implication to Philippine national security. I am Captain Hannah Piso, a military professor of clinical psychology and anthropologies, and with the expertise in understanding the human psyche and social dynamics, I am dedicated to unraveling the complexities of human behavior in the context of national security and military operations. It is essential to clarify that the views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely my own and does not necessarily represent the official stance of the entire armed forces of the Philippines. In this presentation, I will guide you through the nuanced landscape of terrorist recruitment in the digital realm within the Philippines. We will dissect the tactics and strategies used by extremist groups to target and engage potential recruits online, highlighting the unique challenges encountering online recruitment within the Philippine context. Additionally, we will delve into the psychological factors that makes Filipinos susceptible to online radicalization and propose strategies to mitigate the risks associated with online recruitment activities in the country. To provide both a global and local context, it is noteworthy that from 2018 to 2020, the Philippines ranked among the top 10 countries most severely affected by terrorism. This was primarily due to the Marawi siege in 2017 and the subsequent influx of foreign terrorist fighters responsible for suicide bombings. In response to these challenges, the Philippines enacted the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 and formulated the National Action Plan on Preventing and Countering Violent Extremism. These legislative and strategic interventions have demonstratively contributed to the decline in the country's ranking from 10 to 16 in terms of terrorism impact, indicating a trend of progressive improvement each consecutive year. In the Philippines, there are two primary types of violent extremists. The left-wing violent extremists, represented by the Communist Party of the Philippines, the New People's Army, and the National Democratic Front. The Philippine government has been engaged in conflict with these groups for over 50 years. Political-religious violent extremists, on the other hand. This category includes groups such as Bangsamoro of Islamic Freedom Fighter, Mauti Group, formerly known as Dawla Islamiyah, and Abu Sayyaf Group. Among these, the most deadly are the foreign terrorist fighters affiliated with ISIS. According to UNESCO, no one is born a violent extremist. They are made and they are fueled. The question then arises, how does a person become a violent extremist? According to the Center of Prevention of Radicalization Leading to Violence, the process involves the adoption of an ideology that becomes a way of life and a framework for meaningful action for the individual. The belief in the use of violence to promote a cause and merging of ideology and violent action. Importantly, the outcome of radicalization into violent extremism is becoming a terrorist. It is essential to note that that thinking is not the same as doing. An individual is not considered a terrorist unless they have committed an actual act of terror to promote their cause. The process by which an individual becomes a violent extremist is termed radicalization leading to violence. This process involves the adoption of extremist belief systems, including the willing to use, promote, or facilitate violence to advance an ideology, political project, or cause as a means of social transformation. In the Middle East, this phenomenon is colloquially described as being bitten by the jihadist bug, whereas psychologists often refer to it as a mind virus. It is imperative to academically distinguish between terrorists whose violent acts are driven by extremist ideologies or criminal and kidnap for ransom groups who are primarily motivated by financial gain. How do terrorists recruit? They employ indoctrination, which is distinct from education. Indoctrination is not education because it is polarized and does not represent a balanced perspective. Unlike education, which encourages critical thinking and multiple viewpoints, indoctrination focuses on embedding a very specific polarized extremist ideology in the form of a hate campaign. This process of indoctrination is delivered through both face-to-face interactions and online platforms, making it a versatile and pervasive tool for radicalizing individuals. Did you know that the Philippines is also known as the social media capital of the world, ranking first in the 2018 statistics for time spent on social media? As of 2022, there are 72.1 million social media users in the country, with 82.4% of Filipinos having a social media account. This widespread use highlights the significant role of social media that plays on the daily lives of Filipinos, emphasizing the importance of understanding and addressing both its opportunities and challenges, especially in the context of combating online terrorism and promoting digital literacy. Displayed here are actual screenshots demonstrating the use of social media as a platform for violent extremist recruitment. The first picture, Mohammad Reza Kiram, is notably the first Filipino to travel to Syria with his wife and children to join ISIS and recruit for ISIS, together with an Indonesian and Malaysian foreign terrorist fighter. These online screenshots from various social media platforms also provide us the compelling evidence that recruitment activities are actively taking place within our cyberspace. Terrorist organizations use various strategies to seek out potential members on social media and other online platforms. This includes social engineering techniques to exploit psychological vulnerabilities, disseminating extremist propaganda and recruitment campaigns, and establishing dedicated online cells for direct engagement. They also offer emotional support for community and to marginalized individuals, use encryption for secure communication, tailor recruitment messages for specific audiences, and exploit current events to incite fear and anger. Interactive content such as quizzes and games is developed to subtly introduce extremist ideology. These methods enable terrorist groups to identify and recruit individuals vulnerable to radicalization and inclined to support their violent agendas. Terrorist organizations also employ various online recruitment techniques, including manipulating social media with fake profiles and bots, using personalized messaging based on individual vulnerabilities, promoting extremist ideologies for virtual radicalization, and grooming potential recruits by building trust. They also utilize cryptocurrencies for anonymous funding, organize online events and webinars, incorporate gamification elements, provide training materials, create encrypted safe spaces for discussion, and exploit social and political grievances. These methods necessitates a comprehensive approach in involving monitoring, outreach, education, and collaboration between government, tech companies, and civil societies to combat online recruitment effectively. To differentiate between regular online activity and potential recruitment by a terrorist group, you can monitor for sudden behavioral changes such as increased interaction with extremist content or support for violent ideologies with and conduct content assessment for specific keywords or symbols linked to extremism. You can analyze engagement patterns with extremist materials to identify escalating involvement and use of social network mapping to track connections with known terrorist groups members. Additionally, you can evaluate the user's overall digital footprint, including their posting histories and affiliations, to assess their susceptibility to recruitment. By employing these techniques together, you can discern between ordinary online activities and potential terrorist recruitment. In the Philippines, monitoring and countering online recruitment by terrorists involves navigating legal and ethical implications governed by various laws and regulations. These include the Data Privacy Act of 2012 for data protection compliance, the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012 to uphold privacy and freedom of expression, the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 for prosecuting terrorist recruitment, and constitutional rights ensuring privacy and due process. Ethical standards in surveillance and data collection are also crucial in transparency and accountability. By adhering to these frameworks, authorities can effectively interact online terrorist recruitment while safeguarding laws and fundamental rights. To safeguard freedom on the internet while countering malicious activities, implementing measures such as aligning the Philippine laws I mentioned in the previous slide, and bolstering internet governance framework, enhancing capacity building efforts, fostering collaboration with tech companies, setting public awareness campaign standards, and strengthening international cooperation are essential steps for protecting digital rights and promoting a safe online environment. Technology companies and government are pivotal in combating online recruitment by terrorist groups through measures like content moderation, algorithmic solutions, transparency reports, collaboration, user reporting tools, legislation, law enforcement cooperation, capacity building, preventive measures, and international engagement. By aligning resources, expertise, and efforts, these entities can effectively disrupt extremist recruitment online, protecting individuals from radicalization and preserving the integrity of the digital landscape. While it is true that anyone can be susceptible to online radicalization into violent extremism, certain individuals are more vulnerable than others. Research indicates that youth are particularly at risk. Due to their developmental stage, young people often seek identity, belonging, and purpose, which can make them more susceptible to extremist narratives. Their strengths, such as the openness to new ideas and desire for social change, can also be their vulnerabilities when manipulated by violent extremist groups. In fact, majority of them do not even know that they were being recruited. Consequently, the youth represent a demographic that requires focused prevention and intervention programs to mitigate the risk of radicalization. The primary vulnerability of youth lies in their biology and physiology, particularly the underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, which does not fully mature until around age of 25. This area of the brain is crucial for decision-making, impulse control, and assessing risks and consequences. As a result, the amygdala, which is the brain's emotional center, often plays a more dominant role in decision-making among young individuals. This physiological aspect is exploited by violent extremist groups, who craft their messaging as hate campaigns designed to evoke strong emotional responses. These emotionally charged messages can effectively influence and manipulate the youth, making them more susceptible to radicalization. Terrorist organizations further exploit vulnerabilities through emotional manipulation, identity crisis exploitation, social isolation, trauma leveraging, cognitive biases reinforcement, desire for significant staffing, violent radicalizing content, and personalized messaging tailoring in online recruitment efforts. Understanding these tactics is crucial in developing effective counter strategies to protect individuals from extremist propaganda and recruitment. Various interventions aimed at countering the psychological processes that lead to radicalization include early detection programs, mental health support services, community resilience building initiatives, critical thinking and media literacy programs, deradicalization efforts, youth empowerment programs, positive role modeling, interfaith dialogue and education, family and social support networks, and promotion of counter-narratives. By combining these multifaceted approaches, stakeholders can effectively address vulnerabilities to radicalization and empower individuals to resist extremist influences while promoting peace and positive societal contributions. Awareness and education are pivotal in mitigating the risk of online recruitment by terrorist entities. These efforts cultivate critical thinking skills, raise awareness of online risks, enhance digital literacy, identify vulnerabilities, promote counter-narratives, encourage reporting and intervention, engage communities, and humanizes the impact of radicalization. By integrating awareness and education into comprehensive strategies, stakeholders empowered to resist and combat extremist recruitment, fostering a safer and more resilient digital environment. To prevent the spread of extremism on social media, robust measures should be taken, including implementing content moderation policies, ensuring algorithmic transparency, providing user reporting tools, collaborating with civil society for counter-narratives, conducting education campaigns, promoting positive narratives, supporting fact-checking services, this is very important, engaging communities, enhancing regulation, fostering interagency cooperation, and fostering digital literacy programs. These collective efforts aim to combat online extremism, protect vulnerable audiences, and promote a safer, more resilient digital environment against the threat of radicalization and extremist propaganda. To conclude, there is significant evidence to show that violent extremists continue to use online channels to recruit. However, it is important to note that variations in recruitment patterns exist, particularly in geographically isolated disadvantaged areas where violent extremist recruits are illiterate and does not have access to social media. Addressing challenges in digital warfare is crucial for countering these threats, especially considering the psychological vulnerabilities of youth that make them prime targets for violent extremist radicalization. Strengthening, preventing, and countering violent extremism approaches is essential in effectively combating violent radicalization and safeguarding vulnerable populations. So as for my final words, in the digital battlefield, vigilance is our shield and unity is our sword. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Captain Sarhana for your very insightful presentation. So, distinguished participants, now I like to open the floor to question. This is your chance to engage directly with our expert and delve deeper into the topics discussed. I will now outline the rules of our Q&A session. All participants, regardless or whether they are in person or via Zoom or through YouTube, will be afforded an equal opportunity to pose the question. For those attending in person, I kindly request that you raise your hand before posing a question, and please state your name along with the institution you are representing. For participants that joining us via Zoom or YouTube, kindly submit your question in the chat box or in the live chat. And I wish to remind to all participants to submit or express their question in a cordial and respectful manner. Furthermore, I would appreciate it if your question could be articulated both efficiently and concisely. Okay, we are very excited. So we are start with in person, I guess, from the yes, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Reninda from major in Peace and Conflict Resolution from Faculty of National Security, Universitas Pertahanan, Indonesian Defense University, UNHAN. I'd like to know about something. As we know, recently, 19th of July, thousands of flights are canceled around the world because of the blue screen of death, the SOD, on Windows. And we know there is something wrong with the system in the airport. And when everything become digital, especially money, the globalization of digital money, and what if suddenly the dysfunction system of transaction of digital money happen, and there's cybercrime of digital transaction? What would the government do about this? And if there is any prevention when it's happened? And what if I know that it can cause a potential of social conflict if the society cannot make transaction because all of the money become digital. And it can threaten our national security also. And how about there will be a great reset? Do you know the great reset agenda already settled? And how about this is there will be something happen like a blackout about transaction for our money if our money already becoming digital? And what should we do about that? Thank you.
Okay, from Ms. Renita from Unhan. The question is, what if a digital transaction was attacked? So what the government will do? Maybe we can start from. Okay. Maybe we will collect three questions from in person. So the next, please.
Yep, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ulum from Muhammadiyah Jakarta. I have Ulum from Muhammadiyah Jakarta. We have three questions. First for Professor Su Hao. So last month we had a discussion with ASEAN-IPR. One of very important point we had during the discussions is about the importance of public-private partnership. I would like to ask Professor Su Hao, maybe you can share best practices of how government of China related to public privacy partnership, especially inviting addressing the issue the use of AI in cyberterrorism activities. That's my first question. My second question is to Captain Serhana. I met your colleague, Colonel Francel, last month during the discussion. She frequently mentions about the importance of human-centric approach in cybersecurity, including the cyberterrorisms. I was wondering, from your point of view, from psychological point of view, how have been the government of Philippines, especially in addressing classical questions between security and human rights? How the government, while protecting the nations, they do not compromise our individual rights of freedom. And then my last questions to our Professor Golose. Last week I had a chance to project with Ministry of Higher Education and BNPT and Densus 88. During my visit in Densus, I met many foreigners came to Densus 88, and then the Brigadier General, the director, told me that they would like to learn about the success story of Indonesia for this 2023 with zero attack. From your point of view, Prof. Golose, after having been in this issue so many years, what do you think the key strategies of Indonesia so that until now, I mean, in 2023, we had a zero attack? And what do you think, your projections of the impact of this currently external factors of Middle East conflict to the future of terrorism in Indonesia? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Ulum. The last the third.
Good afternoon. My question is for Mr. Golose, Professor Golose. My name is Imelda Purba. I come from Unhan, Total War Strategy. Let me ask a question regarding a phenomenon related to the cybercrime, sir. But please forgive me if and correct me if I'm wrong, right? There is a phenomenon that shows that cybercrime always seems to be faster and more advanced than our security guards. In this case, the police and also maybe the preventive action. Right? I have several examples of cases that are very close to me, sir, where my sister and several of my colleagues and friends had their accounts hacked by cyber criminals. Then my sister and several of the victims reported this to the police. but there has been no meaningful action and follow up until now. It's already around 1.5 year. It seems or looks like that the police just give up, sir. What was even more surprising me was that I received information from investigator while I accompany my younger sister there, that the alleged perpetrator of this account burglary was in detention center in a small area in North Sumatra. Jadi terduga pelaku kejahatannya ada di dalam rumah tahanan di pelosok Sumatera Utara. My question is, how can this happen, sir? What are the main obstacles so that it seems that the police are helpless to deal with the speed of movement of these cyber criminals? What should our security guards and our government do so that can protect citizens and there will be no more victims related to things like this in the future? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for Ms. Imelda Purba. So now we have three person to give a question. So for the first question, may we start from Professor Golose to answer the question. May I repeat the question is there any prevention and it can cause the problem, threaten our national security? What if the digital transaction was attacked? What should we do about that? What should government do about that? That's the question. Maybe we can start from the Prof. Golose.
Before I answer the question, first you have to understand that our discussion today is the use of internet for terrorist purposes. And what the question being asked actually is about cyber. I'm teaching also in University of Defense, Universitas Pertahanan. So maybe after I leave from Universitas Pertahanan. So again, our discussion, but I'm going to answer also about that question, but just want to make sure that our topic is about the use of internet for terrorist purposes. So this is the hybrid between, if you can see all the speakers talking about, is about the hybrid between our nexus between terrorists and cyber, not only cyber. Okay, I'm starting with the question number 3 from Imelda Purba. But before I answer your question, I'll give you some books. So you have to read because you are a student.
Thank you so much,
you
sir.
have to read first.
Thank you.
And the other one, yeah, so
That's your book.
that's my book actually. I wrote this one in 2015 when I was in Lemhanas or National Resilience. So, and the other one, yeah. So if we're talking about the cyber criminal from the prison, sometimes we thought that, okay, the police, they don't work properly. But sometimes it's the greedy of the victim being cheating by somebody asking your identity as your PIN or whatever, and because not easy from the prison, you can hack, like you mentioned about hacking to the account, because they have to cross the certain barriers, which is controlled by bank, and not easy that one. But in fact, mostly happen that they give the idea because the victim wants something more. So they give there, okay, you can put this one, write this one, and after that they can use your ID to take the money as your account hack. Not easy to to hack account. I was the first Indonesian police to arrest and using the law, Indonesian law, for the hacker in this country. When the perpetrators, when we don't have the information and technology law yet, we just using that one, the law of communication. So when they hack, doing defacement to the general election data that time in 2004, if I'm not wrong, it was 20 years ago. So again, not easy. You mentioned about hack, but means you penetrate to the system. And you penetrate to the system. It's not like you mentioned, in the social media, okay, my account has been hacked. Must be something happened behind. And then the second, my analyzing, that both they don't know. The reporter and the police. The police said, how come? And then no, my money is already lost. And somebody is from, but actually because they offering something. And then they are using from the prison. And it's common for them, especially for drugs. Drugs also, no, we don't know about it. But I arrested, not only we arrested when I was the head of national narcotics. Also, we arrested not only the perpetrators, but also the guard, because they work together. So, and also we have the case in North Sumatra, which is the perpetrators for terrorists. He also encouraged others, narcotics and other criminals, so they burn your place, in North Sumatra. They burned the Tanjung Gusta, but we call it Tanjung Dusta. And then he ran away. His name is Fadli Sadam. He's the perpetrator for narcotic as well as terrorism. So in this case, this is a little bit, I'm gonna explain about cybercrime, but not as you mentioned, the hacked account, bank account. It's we'll see, if somebody can do that, we'll see how he can penetrate how many layers for only for certain amount of money. So must be something behind, especially if somebody, the victim, want to get more money too, and then they give their data. And the question from Ulum. Yeah, you came to BNPT, you came to, I've been working for counterterrorism for more than 25 years. So this is accumulate. We started, actually, we realized that Indonesia, we have facing with the threat of terrorists since Pujo Island has been attacked. That time also, nobody, they trust about what's going on. They said the micronuclear. Agent from other country. And when we starting from the crime scene, we realize that Indonesia has been attacked. The time even the Vice President of Indonesia mentioned, Vice President, no terrorist in Indonesia. If they have terrorists, arrest me. When we arrest the terrorists, the Vice President don't want to be arrested. And happen. That's why I gave you the highlight about what's going on since 2000, actually, since the church bombing, even before, if we can see, But before, we have also different perception about what is the extremists doing actually in this country. So if we can see, since or after our independence, we have problem with terrorists in this country until 1960s, and then 1960 to 1998, it's using by intelligence, and from 1998 to 2002, it's between law enforcement or military approach, and then the government choose to do with law enforcement, and we are succeed because we don't do war on terror. We do by law enforcement. We send the terrorists to the criminal justice system process. They have the right to be accompanied by lawyer, and since we arrested them, we do the program, what we call is de-radicalization. We do the program with, since we arrest them, we are touching their heart that what they are doing is wrong, and then this is the method what we were doing in this country. Long process. So, and more than thousands bring to the jail. Even we taking care of them after they being sentenced. So in every province, they have to be monitored by the police and the other stakeholders, also to monitor all the perpetrators or former perpetrators when they are already done in their sentence. But as I mentioned, it's only sign that we are good. That's why I'm telling to Ambassador Puja, this is good program, because you are now in the post-truth era. And then a lot of issue relate what they call fire hose of falsehood. So the social media, everybody, if we want to cheat Ambassador, we just send the message every day, Ambassador, so everybody will believe. So that is the fire hose of falsehood. And it's happened in some countries. And the government can fail also because of that. So zero tech, it's accumulate to all the programs, law enforcement, de-radicalization, inter-stakeholders, national, international cooperation is even the program like this. It's very useful to still keep us alert about the dangers of the use of internet of terrorist purposes. And the first question is about problem. In cyber, they have computer crime and computer-related crime. So you mentioned about the system and so on is computer crime. Sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes also computer-related crime. So the layer of, sometimes because of the programmer, sometimes because of my experience when I was I did presentation in Redmond in Bill Gates place. When they issue the new software, the other hacker already prepared, let's say if they call it beta or alpha program. And then the other, they have been prepared to attack that software so they can get money. So I have my job with Bill Gates that time in Redmond, in Seattle. Bill, you have the copyright. We have the right to copy because our student cannot pay the program, because it's too expensive. That's why we have, and then they support us here. They support my division. That time I was the head of cyber. They support my division with CATS, child exploitation tracking system, because it's happened also to the young people, which is the child exploitation. So through internet. So case like this is happen to every company, not only the airlines, the company sometimes so you have to see the motivate, or you have to start from the crime scene. So to taking care about crime scene for cybercrime, it's totally different with the conventional crime scene. So when you mention about, okay, digital blah, blah, blah transaction, for me as a former investigator, especially for the cybercrime division, we will see, who's doing that, who's doing the, related with what happened in the server, what happened in the program, not about the news. You read about the news and you may say, okay, we know about this. This is now, it's common to everybody. Everybody talking like a cyber expert. So my opinion related with this is we have to work with the company who's been hacked, that's it, and who is the programmer, and then who is the attacker, based on you have to know from the what's going on in the server. And not easy. They have also the program to checking, because you cannot stop anytime like the conventional case. I thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comprehensive response, Professor Golose. We will now turn to Professor Su Hao, but I kindly reminder to ensure we can address as many questions from our participants. May please provide a brief response. Thank you. Now we move to the Professor Su Hao. May I repeat the question? How government of China addressing the use of AI in cyber terrorism activism? The screen pass to you, Professor Su Hao.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Actually, I have the two questions, right? The first, maybe I would like to give a response regarding the digital money issues related with the cyber terror. Well, in China, I would like to let you know that now China is going to launch our, modernization, and we try to open up and reform to our, nation building. So it's our policy to open to the outside, including the financial openness. So we welcome the foreign currency into China to invest for the Chinese economy development. And we also invest quite a lot to the outsider, going along the Belt and the Road initiative. So Chinese financial structure already getting more and more open. So this is the first point I would like to say that. The second, in the context of this kind of openness of foreign currency, so it's also facing big challenges regarding the digital money flow. In particular, the kind of their, crypto coin or currency make it a big challenge to Chinese foreign financial economy, because, this kind of their crypto currency is not very easy to trace its flow and out of the Chinese government control. In particular, that some years ago, it's quite active in Chinese financial activities, like the Bitcoin coin. Many Chinese young people like to use the kind of Bitcoin to save the money, to invest for the profits. So this is very much dangerous for Chinese society, that Chinese foreign currency flows to the outsider. Maybe some money out of the control, out of the supervision by the Chinese government. So some of them maybe could be used by their terrorist group. The reason why, just recent 2 years, Chinese make a very strict regulation to stop their free flow of their cryptocurrency or even Bitcoin to be used by the Chinese citizen, or even their Chinese citizens try to, transfer the money to abroad. So China government needs their, some kind of certificate to evidence or to identify their, usage of the kind of the foreign currency. So by this way, we can try to stop or to hamper their foreign currency flow to be used by their terrorism. So it seems that so far so efficient to stop the foreign currency flow to abroad to be used by the foreign terrorists. So this is my answer to this question. And the second question to me regarding their, their terrorist challenges faced by China and Indonesia regarding their cyber terror. Actually, Chinese and Indonesian people, we share quite a lot and a good tradition for the Islamic exchange. And quite a lot of Islamic culture introduced from China to Indonesia 400 years ago, actually, Zhenghe down to the, the Southern Ocean. So, I mean, the Islamic culture, we share quite a lot between China and between Chinese and Indonesian people or Malayan people. So I think this is our legacy. This is our, tradition to enhance our cooperation in the culture or even people-to-people interaction between us. But in this kind of, cooperation among the peoples between our two countries, we're also facing some kind of challenges. For example, some Chinese terrorist group try to use this kind of the channel between China and Indonesia to do some kind of the human traffic or like the terrorist, buy deals, transfer to their Indonesia and then stop from Indonesia to the Middle East to join in the IS state to enhance the terrorist group in Middle East. So that means China and Indonesia, we share the common ground to stop the human traffic, in particular the terrorist traffic from China to Indonesia or to some country in Southeast Asia to the Middle East to make their global network of terrorists build up. So in this regard, I would say that China and Indonesia, we should enhance our cooperation by this way. The reason why, just days ago, I mean yesterday, so we'll have the 2+2 dialogue or joint meeting at the Defense Ministerial Deputy Ministerial meeting and Foreign Defense and Foreign Deputy Minister meeting to enhance our communication and our interaction to stop some kind of their terrorist traffic, between our two countries and to the Middle East. So I think that we should enhance this kind of the cooperation in the year ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Professor Su Hao, for your answer. May we next to the our next speakers is Professor Captain Esarhana to answer the question. May I repeat the question? The question is how the government will while protecting the nation but still secure the human security. The screen pass to you, Captain Sarhana.
Okay. So the Philippine government, as well as the armed forces of the Philippines, adheres to all the legal and constitutional standards in all of our operations. Admittedly, the legal and constitutional limitations poses a challenge to our operations, but our laws are there for a reason, and that is the protection of everyone. Okay. So as protectors of the state, we as soldiers are mandated to uphold the law. In any case, the Armed Forces of the Philippines uses the existing laws to our advantage. For example, Section 16 of the Anti-Terrorism Act allows surveillance of suspects provided that a court warrant will be issued. So civil liberties are not only legally protected here, but also constitutionally protected. Protection of civil liberties is actually held to a very high standard, and curtailment or limitations of these liberties must also pass constitutional muster. So the Philippine anti-terror law passed these constitutional requirements and challenges as there are sufficient check and balances to protect constitutional rights while at the same time ensuring national security. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you for Captain Sarhana for your answer. We received several online questions, but due to time, we cannot answer all. So I will choose. We will choose some question. The first question is from Zoom. So the question is, what would be the speaker's suggestions for Southeast Asian countries preparing for the potential threat of cyber attacks by state-sponsored terrorist organization or armies? May the Professor Su Hao answer the question first. The screen pass to you, Professor Su Hao.
All right. Actually, I would argue that the China and ASEAN countries will share the solid common ground for the anti-cyber terror. You know, we are the close neighbor with each other, and we are also sharing the economic and societal interaction with us so much. So every year, you know, we are mutuals, the biggest partner for the trade and the biggest partner for the tourist interaction between us. So in this kind of the deep cooperative framework between China and ASEAN countries, I mean 10+1 cooperation framework. So China, we are pay one importance on one hand, the economic security. So the cyber security is also the part of their economic security, right? So China and ASEAN, we share their very much technological cooperation, like their cyber cooperation, like the information technological cooperation, even like the digital, currency, cooperation with each other to prepare some kind of the dangerous challenges from the cyber terrorism, because this is very much our sharing the benefits by this way, and even people-to-people relation so much close with each other. So, for example, like along the Mekong River. So some years ago, 10 years ago, actually, decades ago, we are facing the terrorist attack. All the Chinese and the Laotian and the Myanmarese people. So by this way, we enhance our multilateral legal cooperation to enhance our capacity against the terror or against the transnational criminals. So this is the very important common ground for us. And even more financially, China and ASEAN country, because we are very much close economic partner with each other. So how to safeguard our financial security, our digital currency security is very important. Even China, we have very much easier to have electronic payment. And many Chinese people also use the kind of electronic payment in Southeast Asia when they travel in the country in Southeast Asia. So how to try to prevent their cyber attack by this kind of their financial, digital system is critical for us to consolidate our cooperation. So I would say in general, I would say that China and ASEAN country, in particular, their high tech fields for us, very much important for us to enhance our dialogue, our communication, even our governmental to governmental, people to people, societal to societal interaction with each other, so that we can share our common ground and our foundation to prepare the possible cyber terrorist attack, so that by this way we can enhance our economic and societal reconciliation and resilience for us. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Su Hao. May we listen to the Captain Sarhana? Captain Sarhana, the screen may pass to you.
Regarding the state-sponsored terrorism, well, I think that it is always a matter of foreign policy for whatever country. So it would influence how the Philippines or any country for that matter relate with another country, international sanctions, non-recognition of rogue states, filing of cases in international courts, or just some of the foreign policies that can be taken. However, it is important to note that an accusation of sponsoring terrorism to a particular state is a very serious matter and is not always a straightforward issue for most states, because relationship with other sovereign states are always complex and influenced by many issues, not just terrorism. So that's just my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, but last but not least, we heard from the Professor Petrus. The floor is yours.
The most important thing that we have to do what is a highly security focus, especially for cyber. And legislative or frameworks, digital identity, because if they're doing that, at least we have the digital tracking if we want to trace it back. And the most important thing is also relationship between policymakers, technology company, because as mentioned by one of the participants, that always the criminal they are doing first, so and users. But as I know, that actually I've been also doing Pak Pujo as an ambassador in Vienna. I was one of the experts from Indonesia working together with other countries. If I'm not forgot that time we are 19 countries that time talking about standard operating procedure. If we want to tackle, we want to handle the cyber attack. So we make the standard operating procedure with also that product issued by the United Nations. And actually, it's quite simple if you want to see the cyber attack. It's about IP, Internet Protocol. Even though there's spoofing from other country, but we can trace back the Internet Protocol. So digital tracking is very important, and national also have to build. Especially, we have been attacked before, and we can see that data recovery center is not so good in our country, but we can survive until now. So my conclusion is cooperation between policymaker, company, digital company, users, which is our people, and also, of course, should be supported by the law.
Okay, thank you for our distinguished speaker for answering the question. Actually, we received a lot of questions, but due to time, we cannot answer all the questions. But I would like to thanks to everyone for participation and for engaging the discussion. Thank you for your insightful question and active participation. We hope the discussion has provided a valuable perspective on topics we have covered today. So we are grateful to have our distinguished speakers for their invaluable insight to everyone whose participation in today's agenda. So with that, this marks the end of our discussion today. We appreciate your engagement and look forward to continue participation in the future dialogue or discussion. And I will give back the floor to our MC, Ms. Isabel.
Thank you, Ms. Helena, for moderating this afternoon's discussion. We would like to thank our distinguished speakers, both in person and online, for their time, presentation, and answering the questions posed by the audience. Before we end our session, I would like to inform participants that the organizer has prepared a QR code that participants will be able to scan in order to get an e-certificate to today's session. You can scan it right here, and the link will also be provided in the chat box for participants in Zoom. If you are having any difficulties in opening the link, please send us an email to aipr.secretariat@gmail.com, aipr.secretariat@gmail.com. The email address is now also in the chat box. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. With this, we conclude the first session of ASEAN-IPR's discussion series 2024. We express our sincere gratitude to the ASEAN-IPR Governing Council and Advisory Board, the mission of Canada to ASEAN, ASEAN's IPR dialogue partners, and participating guests present this afternoon for your full attention and engagement in the discussion. This has been an incredibly productive discussion, and I hope everyone finds something valuable to take away from our session today. If you're interested in participating in our next session, stay tuned to our social media and website for more updates. We look forward to welcoming you.
Thank you, Captain Hannah, Prof. Su Hao. Thank you very much for joining the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very
We'll
much.
see you at our
Thank you.
next
Thank
event.
you.
Thank you
It's
very
my
much.
pleasure. And hope to see you again.
Take care. Yes,
Okay.
also. See you
And
next
here,
time.
bye.
Take care.
Okay.
We
Thank
can
you.
leave it now.
Bye.
Thank you.
My Philippine friends, hope to see you
Yes.
again.
Yeah, me too, sir.
Bye.
Take
Yeah,
care.
bye.
Stay healthy.
Bye. Okay. Great. Okay.
Yes,
Bye.
sir.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.